Hello and welcome to Radio Waves. I'm your host, Kris Poliquin, and this is a production of Red Apples Media. We're broadcasting out of 790 AM Real Country out of Leesburg, Florida. And if you're watching us on television, you're doing so on Lake Sumter TV, Comcast Channel 13, Bright House 498, and CenturyLink Prism Channel 83. So today, I'm really excited about this show today. I have invited the tax collector for Lake County, David Jordan, and I want to maybe dispel some myths because you're the tax guy. So I'm eager to get into it. David, thank you for coming onto the show.
Thank you, Kris, for the invitation. It's an honor, and I love coming out to share anything we can about the office or local government.
Oh, great.
Public service.
Because I hope for you to enlighten me, and as well as our audience, on just what you do. But before we do that, tell our audience a little bit about yourself and how you found yourself as the Lake County tax collector.
Well, I'll try with some brevity to shorten it up, but I guess it starts out with I met a nice gentleman, a sharp public administrator, and a great tax collector, a guy named Bob McKee, Mr. McKee, a very honorable, sharp man. And when I was in public safety, I was the vice president of EMS for 4 county operations in Lake Sumter, Citrus, and Hernando County. And I met him when he was the town of Lady Lake city manager. Subsequent to that, he became the tax collector and was for 22 years and served honorably, and also wanted to transform that aspect of local government. And I was honored when he asked me to come aboard, and I worked there for 19 years with him.
Oh, wow, really? Okay.
Yes, sir. And became his chief deputy, which basically provided me the opportunity to be mentored by him and to move along in the ranks, if you will, and prepare me for one day when he wanted to leave a legacy of success that he had had with excellent service to the customers and also fiduciary excellence in handling the money we do. So I had the privilege of having him as a mentor and a friend, and still have as a friend, and also working with an incredible team. We have the most loving, public servant, heart-filled individuals in our service centers and throughout our organization, and I'm proud to be associated with them.
Now, see, that it was almost expected to hear. But after talking to you before the show, I believe you actually mean it. I really, really do.
Well, thank you. It's from my heart.
I believe that. I really do.
I appreciate that.
Let's enlighten our audience on the tax office itself, because I'm no spring chicken, but you're the tax guy. Let me keep my money. Stop taking my money. Friend or foe type of love-hate relationship that most people have. But after doing a little bit of research, it's not as simple as that.
Well, I had the same thoughts, if you will, and by the way, I have to pay myself now, which is a really odd thing, because I write a check.
Do you write a check to yourself?
When I paid my property taxes for the first time, I went to write Bob. I went, wait a minute, David Jordan. My paychecks, David Jordan from David Jordan to
Yeah.
Anyhow, it's a very unique situation, and that all comes about because it's a constitutional office. There are 5. The sheriff is one of them, the property appraiser, clerk of the court, and the supervisor of elections. And of course, the office that I hold is the tax collector, which is, by the way, is a huge honor and privilege. So,
and I'm sure a lot of work.
Yes, there are 2 components. One that are huge. We are customer centric because of the volume of folks that come into our service centers, about 2,000 a day, give or take, that my staff deals with on a variety of issues, lots of them. And then the other is that we collect over $500 million, that's with a B, dollars money of tax money for a variety of organizations, governmental entities, quite frankly.
Sure.
With that, that comes the fiduciary responsibilities, which is to make sure that every one of those pennies that are collected go where they're supposed to according to the law. And of course, we are audited independent of the office, et cetera. And with that, I kind of go back to the title tax collector. Florida is a strong local government state. It doesn't leave a lot of things 200 and some or 400 miles away from the constituents. And I think another thing to go to the tax collector title.
Right.
I think another way is trustee. There's another word that I heard another colleague mention once, which is the money is kept in trust. It's the public's money. which is a huge responsibility. So every penny can be accounted for, is accounted for, and distributed where it should be. And that is the other
just
part
seems
of
like
it.
such a large undertaking. That
It is, but again, with as you know, the best way to have success is have an awesome team. The best way to keep preventing fraud is know who you're hiring. That's the first line.
you're right.
Hiring sound, honorable people, and then running a sound business, and that is having all the right controls in place and have someone looking over my shoulder, quite frankly, and that's the independent financial auditors that do that. And several other entities, Department of Revenue does,
sure.
Division of Motor Vehicle in the state, just to name a few.
Okay, because I've always found it interesting that instead of writing a check to the Department of Transportation or to state of Florida, it's you. It goes straight to you, and that's probably got to do because it's a constitutional position, correct?
Correct. And I'm glad you asked that question, because that's frequently asked of our staff on the front counter when they write a check out, which is, a lot today, most people don't write many checks, but in our office, it's still a larger number than you might think. And one is the buck stops here. It means I am personally accountable for every penny. David Jordan is. So back to the trustee component.
Right.
The trust document is the law that says where this money goes. So this is a very serious matter, as I heard Governor Scott, now Senator Scott, say. I was with him once. He said that this is, to a crowd, about the honor of holding these kind of offices. The only thing that equals the degree of that is the responsibility. So that's it in a nutshell. And it's me. If something's wrong, there's no looking over your shoulder, looking at someone else. And the public knows who to hold accountable and who to come for when they're not happy with something.
So you get a lot of good sleep at night.
Yeah,
Sounds like a pretty stressful
I do because of my
position.
staff.
And there you go. I know that all too
Yes.
well. I really
Yes,
do.
sir.
So let's paint a picture of the type of things that ordinary citizens may be, I don't want to say contributing, but utilize every day, and don't put tax office and you together,
Right.
and that specific thing together,
All right. Well, I think there's two big things to kind of tie together, and some might think, well, that's kind of obvious, but it's not. One is when you get your property tax bill in November, it comes from the
Right.
tax collector, or if it's a tangible personal property tax bill, comes in November. So that's the tax collector beginning, if you
Correct.
will. And so then you have where Florida and the legislature has given responsibility for certain state functions, and one of them being motorist services, which would be driver's license, tag, title, or license plate, whatever you want to say, or decal registration. And then there's a host of other things where we do things for other levying local government officials. For example, if City of Leesburg wants to fund their fire department through a non-avalorum, which is a fee per service type thing, they can opt to put that on the tax bill, which is called the Uniform Method of Collection. So
Wow.
there's a lot of different, so there's about 55, the number just flew out of my head, entities in that arena that we collect for and then distribute to. And then, of course, we keep a fee for what it costs to fund the office operations, operating expenses. And then we got the motorist services, which is where most of the public would recognize the tax collector's office in that sense.
Right.
Some folks, we don't like the acronym DMV because it equates to a very negative, everybody knows that.
And you're already the tax guy.
Correct. It compounds the tax mons
Right.
after you now.
Right.
But again, here's the nice thing about being a locally elected, independent constitutional officer. You hold me accountable. So the behavior and the experience you see, that demonstrates what our values is, not what we write on the wall.
Right.
And bringing on folks on the team, again, who are smart, who care about people, and want to be kind. And our deal is ASK, accurate, swift, and kind. It can be that way. You just got to get the right people.
Right. And that's the number one variable in any equation anymore.
Absolutely.
Customer service is still paramount. And yet it almost seems like in a lot of industries, it's becoming less and less important. But how important is customer service in the field well, at the tax office or just in government in general. Because again, a lot of that animosity and that aggravation, and I hate to use it as an example, but the DMV. So many stereotypes associated with that, but stereotypes are usually have some nugget.
There's a reason they came to be
behind it, right?
Where there's smoke, there's fire.
Exactly.
Let's see, where do I begin in this? Well, first off, the question is the public service, where is it rate? It's, like I said, fiduciary responsibilities and customer service. So let's go from customer service and say, let's call it public service. Because there's a difference. And a friend said to me once, who spent a lifetime in public service, that in customer service, the customer has a choice. I can go buy this kind of car or that kind of car. I can go to this dealer or that dealer. I can go to this big box or that big box. You don't have a choice. You have to come to David Jordan's office, the tax collector.
Right.
So true public service has to come from the heart. It has to be something that you are made for, I believe, and my team, and I believe they are. And I know it's in my heart, my previous career. That's why I was led to it. And it's a choice you make, and I think it has a lot to do with what your belief system is and what your values are. And I don't want to, I love people too. And
right.
so
by
but
nature,
it
emotes out in people who may already be arriving ready for an argument, and to get that good quality service, because I use your tax office. I'm a Lake County resident. I live right down the road from the one off of David Walker. It really is calming, right? Because a lot of people are there and they don't want to be anyway, and to be able to feel that, again, lack of a better term, calmness, politeness. People are, I don't want to say it's Disneyland, but it's, people are friendly, and they're eager to help you, I guess.
I wholeheartedly believe that, but I leave that judgment to the taxpayers, leave that judgment to the constituency, yourself. Thank you for your comment. And again, I'm so proud of them. I can't say that enough. And I know that's where all the success is coming from. You have a choice how you treat anybody at any given moment. And none of us are perfect. We all have a bad moment. But we want to be also an advocate, going back to that stereotypical DMV thing or tax collector title. Again, it gives you an opportunity to do something pleasant. You don't know how you're going to change someone's day by what they went into expecting to be a really bad situation getting worse to, wow, I feel good. I got a call from a gentleman yesterday, left with my assistant saying, please call me. I have a complaint to lodge. So I'm like, well, I want to call because we want to know that too.
Sure.
I call him and he says, no, I don't have a complaint. This is what I want to tell you. And he goes on and he starts talking about Hersina Green, the branch manager at David Walker, Dawn, Melissa. And these are the kind of calls I'm getting, and this is the kind of comment cards are filled out. And that's when you know you're hitting it.
Yeah.
And that, again, and I named those three people, but I can tell you that's all 101 that you hear that from. So
that's fantastic. And again, you have to do what you do.
Right.
And we, the taxpayers, have really no say in it. But the way you're delivering it speaks volumes, because I'm less likely to dread my next visit.
Well, and again, one last thing on that topic is most states, when you deal with a motor vehicle issue, you're dealing with a state agency. And the wisdom of the legislature in Florida, they, back in 2010, decided to make that a responsibility and duty to be administered through the tax collector's office locally, because the tax collector offices are duly elected. So close to the people, government's going to be more responsive. Well, it was a wonderful success in their opinion, and others that have seen the change. So in other states, so what we are is we're an advocate for the public for state agency things. Some things we can't change. We don't start off with no.
Right.
Because no means I can go over here and do nothing. Yes means I've got to put some elbow grease into this and go at it, as my wife says, with some gusto. And that's what we want to do. We don't want to break a law, but we want to study it long enough to find the best outcome, what they came in to do to comply.
And
That's how I want to be treated.
you're building confidence in me. I'll tell you
Thank
that.
you. I
now.
appreciate that.
So we need to take a quick break.
Yes,
but
sir.
when we return, I'd like to get into a couple of other tax-related questions that I have. We'll be back in a couple of moments. Hello and welcome back to Radio Waves. Again, I'm your host, Kris Poliquin, and this is a production of Red Apples Media. So today we're talking with the Lake County Tax Collector, David Jordan, about, well, the tax office. And I find, I'm finding you less of a villain more and more as the show goes on. So if that's any consolation.
Great deal.
I do, there's a couple of hot topics that have been, I don't know, out in the media and for Lake County specifically. And I have friends that have done Airbnbs. And I know that that's a really, really high topic for conversation as of late. And I'll be honest with you, I'm kind of torn. Can you give our audience a little background on exactly what I'm talking about? Because I didn't really do a good job just then. But to get them an idea of what you're looking at and then why it's so important. Because I'm a little, I don't know, I'm on the fence. I really, really am.
All right. Well, what we talked about, it'd be the tourist development tax or bed tax. And that is a tax based on gross receipts for anybody that provides accommodations, and don't need to go into the definition, everybody knows that, whether it's
Sure.
a tent or a bed or a couch or a house or a building, whatever, sleep in. So anyhow, the county commission by state statute has the option to levy that tax and then authorize an official to collect it. So the tax collector, they did.
Sure.
And with that, they use that money specifically according to statute, which is obvious what to do with it and the name of it. So what happens is with, the advent of things, not like that's anything new, the internet, and these platforms is what they're generically referred to, whether it's Airbnb, vacation rental by owner, HomeAway, etc.
So, a medium.
Yes, sir. And what they do is they provide that opportunity for us to get out there on the internet and look where we're going to go and go stay somewhere. Great concept. It works well for people. I've used them. Here's where it goes, in particular, specific to Airbnb, is they've gone around with these tax agreements. They are asking tax collectors to sign an agreement that this is their terms of how they'll pay taxes. I'm not familiar with that concept, and I know most people aren't.
Right.
And also,
Can I do that?
We'll right. I'd love to do that for the constituency.
Yeah.
Instead of Airbnb.
Right.
That would be another nice customer service thing. But anyhow, the point of it is this, is that a lot of folks don't realize this. There's a lot that comes with getting into, I'm going to say platforms, that's the generic one everybody's using. And when you rent out an accommodation, you're considered the host and you have a legal obligation to register with my office and to collect and remit by the 20th of each month, 4% of the gross receipts. You also have an obligation to register as what they call a dealer in generic terms with the Department of Revenue for sales tax purposes. So it's 11% you should be collecting. 6 for the state, 1 for local government option, buys the sheriff's cars and et cetera, school stuff, and then the 4% for tourist development to bring people into Lake County to spend their money here, which generates an economic engine for it. So
Okay.
A lot of folks don't realize you do that. You need to be getting with Mr. Baker with the property appraiser's office because this can jeopardize portions or all of your homestead. If you have a homestead,
Oh, wow.
you should have filed tangible to personal tax form with him, and you should have a business tax receipt. There's a lot of things that you should be. Now, there's other entities out there, your typical hotel you see on the side of the road, or bed and breakfast that are very obvious. They're easy for us to enforce and make sure they're collecting and remitting. Well, when you have this opportunity to go through the internet and have those arrangements and move the money electronically, you could just forget to do it or not know you should.
Well, see, that brings me to a
Okay.
question. So, can this be accidental? So, and what I mean is, let's say you need a place to crash, but you're using up a lot of my water.
Right.
David, you can crash with me for a week or 2 weeks. Just give me $200 for the help with utilities, water, whatever. I don't have to claim that. That's just, or should I?
if you let under 180 days, 180 or less, no, you don't have a lease like on an apartment.
Sure.
Yes, you have to register because you're consideration for providing accommodations.
Okay.
Okay. Now, I understand I'm not a real big tax guy, even though I'm the tax man, okay?
Right.
Politically, philosophically speaking, other than we do need to provide services for the sheriff, for the fire, for rescue, for other things that don't get that notoriety. There's a certain level of civility we want in our county and quality of life.
Course.
I'm willing to pay for, period. But there's something, and then when taxes go too far and you don't get the return on your investment, that makes me look. That's not right. It's wrong.
Sure.
Then something that
I agree.
Something that's obvious too.
Yeah.
Something that goes further is to not equally apply the law to people. If the legislature or the county commission takes an opportunity to tax and they have the legal right to do it, then I should apply it equally. If not, then I'm creating a business environment that another competitor can have an advantage over you by about 11%.
Now that's not an aspect I thought about. So that's true. That does seem a bit unfair. If you're legitimately running, what you're saying is you're legitimately running a business. You're paying your fair share of taxes. So Motel 6, just as an example. An Airbnb, if you're not, I guess, registered or paying those taxes, that is kind of an advantage.
Significant advantage.
Well, it's just not fair, right?
I think in a nutshell, to kind of wrap up, is I think most people don't know. And it's real simple. You can reach out to our office, go to our website and register there.
Just before we go any further, what is your website? Just so if any of our listeners want to get more information.
laketax.com.
Simple enough.
And then you just go there and go look for your business, tourist development tax register, or call our office at 352-343-9602. We'll help. That's another thing. We don't go out with a hammer first. We don't work with people. We want to educate, and this is an opportunity right here to do that.
Absolutely.
Please reach out to us. We'll work with you. I can also, by law, enter into what's called voluntary disclosure agreements where we can relieve penalties and just get gross taxes. Things of this nature is the best option for the county and for the taxpayer.
Well, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm kind of disappointed in the show. I was really hoping they have a monster on the other side of the table. And I do, I'm all joking aside. I appreciate you taking the time out of what I'm sure is a very, very busy day and helping spread some of this information, because I know I learned a lot. And I know you perform a very important role, vital role in our local community, as well as all tax collectors. Even though I still want to look at you as the sheriff of Nottingham.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much. Appreciate the opportunity.
And that's it for today. We'll see you next time. This has been Radio Waves.